Welcome to the final module for infant-toddler mental health. In this PowerPoint, we'll explore some policy issues and emerging areas of research. Now that you have a good basic understanding of typical social-emotional development, responsive relationships, the impact of trauma and stress, and how teachers and caregivers can support young children in developing healthy social-emotional competence. Now I want you to be able to speak to others out in the world about the important issues affecting infant-toddler mental health. We will look at policies that are on the forefront, emerging and expanding areas of research, and issues affecting infant and toddler mental health in the news. In this PowerPoint, we will begin with our policy issues, then move into some emerging and expanding research, and then finally look at news issues of infant and toddler mental health. We'll begin by looking at the areas where federal and state level policy are beginning to take notice, especially because of their enormous impact on early childhood mental health. I will try to keep the focus on infant-toddler specific settings, but often research in this area of infant-toddler is lacking, and it is difficult to tease apart the policies for infants and toddlers apart from preschoolers. The Federal Policy Statement on Expulsion and Suspension Prevention and the National Academies of Science 2015 report, Transforming the Workforce for Children Birth Through Age 8, recommends that all program staff should have access to specialists or consultants, such as early childhood mental health consultants. Early childhood mental health consultation models are allowable uses of child care and development funds, quality enhancement funds, due to their focus on enhancing the workforce's development and promoting children's social, emotional, and behavioral development. In the fall of 2015, the Administration for Children and Families released an informational memorandum to state, territorial, and tribal lead agencies administering child care programs under the Child Care and Development Block Grants. This memo focused on state policies to promote social, emotional, and behavioral health of young children. The intent was for lead agencies to use the recommendations provided while preparing the Child Care and Development Fund state plans. Among the guidance offered by the memo was to establish a statewide early childhood mental health consultation system by leveraging federal, state, and private funding. Other recommendations included establishing a statewide system of age-appropriate positive behavior intervention and supports, establishing expulsion and suspension policies, and including social-emotional indicators in states' quality rating frameworks. This memorandum is meant as guidance and not a mandate, encouraging child care lead agencies to consider these policy recommendations as state plans are developed. Key points in the definition of early childhood mental health consultation include that it is a problem-solving, capacity-building collaborative intervention. What do we mean by that? Problem-solving means helping to define the problem or concern, working together to come up with ideas and strategies unique to solving or reducing a particular problem or concern, and evaluating if the strategies are working. Capacity building, the idea that each time we work together to solve problems, we learn more about what works and how to implement individualized strategies, increasing the capacities of staff and parents to understand how to address concerns as they arise. And collaborative, expertise of each member of a team, including the parent, is valued. Each person brings experience, knowledge, and a unique perspective. We are in this together, working to improve our interactions with young children. All of these elements that define early childhood mental health consultation are really in contrast to the idea of the mental health professional being an expert who swoops in and saves the teacher by fixing a child. Other very important aspects of high-quality early childhood mental health consultation are being culturally sensitive, recognizing culture's impacts on our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and being willing to learn and adapt one's own communication, thoughts, and behavior to be better understood by others, and having a family focus, valuing the family's expertise and experience, and engaging families in working together to address concerns. This really means having a trusting, respectful, and mutual partnership with families. How many times have you seen a plan proposed to a family that is already filled out and the parent is asked to sign it, or the parent is contacted only after staff or teachers already feel at their wits' end. It is very hard to have a trusting, respectful partnership at that point. Infant and early childhood mental health consultation is primarily an indirect service. Early childhood mental health consultants may provide therapy as a part of other funded work. However, mental health consultation is distinct from treatment or therapy. In early childhood mental health consultation, consultants work with the adults who provide care for children. Consultants work with parents, teachers, and more recently, consultants have provided consultation in settings such as home visiting, pediatric offices, and child welfare agencies. In all instances, the goal of mental health consultation is to help caregivers promote social and emotional development of the young children that they provide care for. Mental health consultants often provide support and guidance for caregivers who may be working with a child exhibiting challenging behavior. Mental health consultation can impact child, family, staff, and program outcomes. In the last 10 years, there has been an increase in the evidence base and research available on infant and early childhood mental health consultation. Research has demonstrated that programs with infant and early childhood mental health consultation have reduced preschool suspensions and expulsions, decreased problem behaviors, especially externalizing or challenging behaviors. They have greater gains on socialization, emotional competence, and communication, improved social skills and peer relationships, and reduced the missed workdays for parents. Research has demonstrated that infant and early childhood mental health consultation has provider-level outcomes as well. There's been research that shows it demonstrates improvements in teaching feelings and managing children's behavior, engaging families in home visiting, improving staff's interactions with children, increasing the frequency of home visits with families, improving scores on the class, and improving home visiting retention. A number of program-related outcomes are also associated with infant and early childhood mental health consultation, including increases in supportive policies and reflective supervision, reductions in staff feelings of stress and burnout, reductions in staff turnover, improvements in children's attachment and resilience, and improvements in children's school readiness. There are additional system-level outcomes associated with infant and early childhood mental health consultation, including the increase in ongoing developmental screening with referrals and follow-ups, earlier identification of mental health problems, and more appropriate referrals for specialty services like CPP that we learned about in the previous modules. So if you do not have an infant or early childhood mental health consultation in your program, talk to your administrator. See if there's somebody that you can have on site or on call to help your program in developing systems for supporting infants and young children and the staff. As we have studied, the beginning years of any child's life are critical for building the early foundation of learning, health, and wellness needed for success in school and later in life. Suspension and expulsion are stressful and negative experiences that can influence adverse outcomes across development, health, and education. Expulsion or suspension early in a child's education predicts expulsion or suspension in later school grades. Young children who are expelled or suspended are as much as 10 times more likely to drop out of high school, experience academic failure and grade retention, hold negative school attitudes, and face incarceration than those who are not. Some estimates have found that rates in early childhood programs are higher than in K-12 settings. All estimates have found large racial disparities, with young boys of color being suspended and expelled at disproportionately high rates. The U.S. Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights reviews suspension and expulsion data yearly. Recently, they have expanded to looking at public pre-K data. What has been found is alarming, particularly for young children of color. Black children make up 18% of preschool enrollment, but 48% of preschool children suspended more than once. Boys receive more than 3 out of 4 out-of-school preschool suspensions. We do not have good data for infant-toddler settings, but many leaders in the field suspect it is the same or worse. Data also shows that expulsion rates are much higher in private child care settings as opposed to public pre-K and K-12 settings. This data is only for licensed child care settings. What do you think it might look like in unlicensed settings? This is concerning given that our most vulnerable children, those exposed to toxic stress and trauma due to issues surrounding poverty and unstable families, are more likely to be cared for in unlicensed settings. You may think, I never would do that. Suspension and expulsion for infants and toddlers, that doesn't happen. But we don't call it expulsion. We'll say things like, please pick up your child early today, or don't bring her in tomorrow. Or how about you just have him join us for half days for the next few weeks? Or maybe even, our program just isn't right for your child, and we can't provide the services your child needs. These are all forms of suspension and expulsion. To date, there have been only 2 studies that looked at suspension and expulsion at the infant-toddler level. A study in Chicago found that 42% of birth to 3 child care programs expelled at least one child in the previous year because of behavior. A study in Philadelphia found that 26% of child care programs had expelled at least one child in the past year, and that toddlers were just as likely as preschoolers to be asked to leave the child care setting. More research is necessary in infant-toddler settings. Here's a recent news story about a suspension of a 3-year-old. From the article, Zoe Rosso, who is 3 years old, likes to bake brownies with her mom, go to tumbling class, and make up elaborate worlds with tiny plastic animals and dolls. Like many children her age, she sometimes has difficulty making it to the toilet on time. That's why she was suspended from her preschool for a month. Arlington Public Schools Montessori Preschool at Claremont Elementary removed Zoe in December, asking her parents not to bring her back to school for a month or until the child learned to not have any more accidents. This is an example of a lack of understanding of developmental appropriateness leading to suspension and expulsion of young children. With trepidation, the Rossos sent Zoe back to Claremont earlier this month. She stayed dry at first, but within a few days she had 5 accidents. I couldn't bring her back to school after that, Rosso said. Every single day we'd be waiting for the principal to appear and escort us out of the building again. After frantic calls, the parents found a spot for Zoe in a program that works with children who are being potty trained. We told Zoe that we want her to go to school where people aren't going to get mad at her for having accidents, Rosso said. Since she started the new school on January 11th, her mother said, Zoe has made it to the toilet every time. So not only did the original school suspend her for having developmentally appropriate bathrooming habits, but they also were contributing to her own toxic stress by not providing supportive, responsive relationship with the child.